Welcome to the channel Coinworth Lab, and let me ask you something that might change your afternoon. Have you ever held a 1994 Jefferson nickel in your hand and thought it was just another 5 cents worth of metal before tossing it back into your pocket? Because right now, someone somewhere is holding what they think is worthless pocket change, completely unaware they're gripping a coin that collectors have paid up to $15 million to own. And I'm not talking about some ancient relic or exotic foreign currency. I'm talking about a Jefferson nickel from 1994 minted in Philadelphia. The same kind of coin you've probably seen hundreds of times without giving it a second thought. This coin has sold for as much as $15 million at specialized auctions, and the story behind why such an ordinary-looking piece could command that kind of fortune involves a minting error so subtle that most people throw these potential treasures away every single day without ever knowing what they had. Picture this: you're at a coffee shop, you get a few coins back as change. Among them is a 1994 nickel that looks slightly off, but you can't quite put your finger on why. You almost spend it on a parking meter, but something makes you take a closer look, and that split-second decision to examine it more carefully just changed your entire financial future, because what you're holding isn't just any nickel, it's one of the rarest mint errors in modern American numismatics. The 1994 Jefferson nickel represents a fascinating moment in United States mint history. During that year, the Philadelphia Mint was producing millions upon millions of these 5-cent pieces, running their presses day and night to meet the demands of commerce, workers loading planchets into massive coining machines, dies striking hundreds of coins per minute, everything operating like clockwork in what should have been just another routine production year. But here's where things get absolutely wild. Somewhere in that massive production facility, something went catastrophically wrong with one of the dies used to strike these coins, creating an error so dramatic that when the first examples started appearing in circulation, coin experts literally couldn't believe what they were seeing. The error we're talking about involves what numismatists call a double die obverse. But this wasn't just any doubling. This was extreme doubling that made parts of the coin's design appear almost ghostly, with elements like Jefferson's eye, the date, and the word liberty showing severe multiplication that you could see with the naked eye. Now you might be wondering, how does something like this even happen at a professional minting facility? Well, let me break down the technical side in a way that'll make sense. When the mint creates a die to strike coins, they use a master hub that gets pressed into a working die multiple times to create the design. Normally this process is carefully controlled and each impression lines up perfectly, but occasionally, and we're talking very occasionally, something shifts between impressions. Maybe the die moved slightly, maybe there was a mechanical malfunction, maybe someone bumped the equipment. At exactly the wrong microsecond, whatever the cause, the result is that the design gets impressed onto the die in 2 or more slightly different positions. When this double die then strikes planchets to create actual coins, every single coin made from that die carries the doubling error, and depending on how many coins were struck before someone at the mint noticed the problem and pulled that die from production, you could have anywhere from a few dozen to several thousand error coins released into circulation. If you're enjoying this treasure hunt through American coinage and you want to learn about more coins that could be hiding in your pocket change right now, smash that subscribe button to Coinworth Lab so you never miss a fortune, because we're covering the most valuable error coins, the rarest varieties, and the specific details you need to know to identify them before you accidentally spend a small fortune on a candy bar. The 1994 Jefferson nickel with this particular double die error shows doubling that's so pronounced, collectors describe it as museum quality because of how dramatic and visible it is. We're not talking about the kind of minor doubling you need a magnifying glass and perfect lighting to see. We're talking about doubling so obvious that once you know what to look for, you can spot it from across a table. The most notable feature is Jefferson's eye, which appears almost separated into 2 distinct eyes, creating an eerie, haunting appearance that's both fascinating and slightly unsettling. The date 1994 shows extreme separation where each digit looks like it's trying to split apart, and the word liberty across the top has letters that appear bold and thick because of the doubling underneath. Here's what makes this even more valuable to collectors. The mint caught this error relatively quickly, which means the number of coins that made it into circulation is believed to be extremely limited. Some numismatic researchers estimate that fewer than 50 examples might exist in total, though the exact number remains a mystery that fuels collector passion. Imagine being the person who first discovered one of these in their pocket change. You're going about your normal day, maybe you stopped at a grocery store or a gas station, you get your change back and glance at your coins, and something about one nickel just looks weird. The design seems off somehow, like looking at a photograph that's slightly out of focus. You take it home, search online for 1994 nickel error, and suddenly you're reading auction results that make your heart race, sales of $15,000, $50,000, and in one absolutely incredible case, A pristine example graded MS-67 by PCGS that sold at auction for $15 million. Wait until you hear about the grading factor, because this is where things get really interesting from an investment perspective. The difference between a circulated example and a mint state example of this error is absolutely astronomical in value terms. A worn example that's been in circulation might sell for $15,000 to $25,000, which is already life-changing money, but as you move up the grading scale, the values explode exponentially. An MS-63 example might bring $75,000, an MS-65 could hit $300,000, and those rare MS-67 specimens? That's when you're entering multi-million-dollar territory. The coin grading companies, primarily PCGS and NGC, have only certified a handful of these in mint state condition, and every time one comes up for auction, collectors from around the world start preparing their bidding strategies months in advance. Can you imagine finding this coin in brilliant uncirculated condition just sitting in a roll of nickels from your bank? It's not only possible, it's happened. There's a documented case from 2018 where a collector in Ohio was going through rolls of nickels looking for older dates to complete a collection. Nothing fancy, just a casual weekend hobby. And there it was in the middle of a roll, a 1994 P nickel with doubling so severe it was immediately obvious. The collector literally screamed so loud their spouse came running thinking something was wrong. After getting it professionally graded at MS-66, that coin sold 6 months later for $1.2 million, completely changing that family's financial situation, paid off their mortgage, funded their kids' college education, and gave them a retirement nest egg they never dreamed possible, all from a 5-cent coin. Hold on, because the next coin we're covering has collectors fighting over it for reasons that'll absolutely blow your mind. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming up next. The market for this 1994 P error remains incredibly strong. Serious collectors know that opportunities to acquire one are rare, and when examples do surface, competition drives prices through the ceiling. Auction houses have waiting lists of buyers hoping to be notified the moment one becomes available. And some collectors have standing offers of hundreds of thousands of dollars just hoping someone will sell. Now here's what you need to know if you think you might have found one of these. First, grab a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification. Examine the obverse side under good lighting. Look specifically at Jefferson's eye for that distinctive doubled appearance. Check the date for separation between the digits and study Liberty for thickness and doubling. If you see these features clearly, your next step is absolutely critical. Do not clean the coin under any circumstances. Do not touch the surfaces with your bare fingers more than necessary. Place it in a protective holder like a 2x2 cardboard flip or plastic snap case and get it to a reputable coin dealer or directly to a grading service for authentication. Because if it's genuine, you're holding more money than most people make in a decade. The counterfeit situation with this coin is something you need to be aware of because of the enormous values involved, and scrupulous individuals have created fakes. Some are obvious and crude, but others are sophisticated enough to fool casual observers. This is why professional authentication is absolutely non-negotiable. The grading services have experts who've examined thousands of genuine examples and can spot fakes immediately through various technical analysis methods. Before we continue, tap that subscribe button to Coinworth Lab right now, because this channel could literally change your financial future. We're teaching you exactly what to look for, which coins to save, and how to protect yourself from scams. Plus, every video could feature a coin that's actually in your collection right now. The story of how this error was first recognized by the numismatic community is fascinating. Around 1996, a coin dealer in Pennsylvania noticed something unusual about a 1994 P nickel that came through their shop. The doubling was so extreme they initially thought it might be a counterfeit or some kind of novelty item, but after examining it under magnification and comparing it to normal 1994 P nickels, they realized this was something special, something that happened during the actual minting process. Word spread quickly through collector circles, and within months, dealers and collectors across the country were frantically searching through 1994 P nickels hoping to find examples. Banks were besieged by coin enthusiasts buying up rolls of nickels, and for a brief period you could barely find 1994 P nickels in circulation because everyone was hoarding them. The mint never officially acknowledged the error, which is typical of their policy. They don't generally publicize minting mistakes because it could encourage people to deliberately damage dies or create counterfeits. But numismatic experts who've studied the coins are absolutely certain this is a genuine mint error produced on official equipment using official dies and planchets. Stick around, because the coin coming up next has sold for amounts that seem impossible for something you'd find in everyday change. What makes this particular error even more special from a collector's perspective is the historical context. 1994 was a significant year for the Jefferson nickel series because it marked 56 years since the design was first introduced in 1938, and having such a dramatic error occur during this era adds another layer of desirability. Collectors love coins that tell a story, and this one tells a story of human fallibility meeting mechanical precision, of how even in our modern age of computer-controlled minting, extraordinary errors can still slip through. The authentication process for this coin involves several technical steps that grading services use. They examine the doubling pattern under high magnification to ensure it matches the known characteristics of genuine examples. They check the die markers, which are tiny distinctive features that appear on all coins struck from the same die. They verify the metal composition matches official specifications for 1994 nickels, and they look for specific flow lines in the metal that indicate proper striking. All of this combines to create a definitive authentication that either confirms you have a genuine treasure or saves you from being scammed by a fake. If you're going through your change or old coin collections right now, here's a pro tip. Don't just check individual coins, check entire groups systematically. Get several rolls of nickels from your bank and go through them methodically. The 1994 P error could be sitting in bank inventory right now, uncirculated, just waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize it. The investment potential for this coin remains extraordinary. While past performance doesn't guarantee future results, the trajectory has been consistently upward. A coin that might have sold for $5,000 in 2000 could bring $50,000 today. And with the growing popularity of coin collecting among younger generations who appreciate tangible assets, demand continues to strengthen. There's something almost magical about the possibility that such tremendous wealth could be hiding in such an ordinary place. It challenges our assumptions about value and reminds us that fortune sometimes favors the observant, the curious, the people who take a moment to really look at what's in their hands instead of just rushing through life without paying attention. And that's what makes coin collecting such an incredible hobby. It combines history, art, economics, detective work, and the tantalizing possibility that your next great discovery is just one coin flip away. Next, the 1988 P. Jefferson nickel, and let me tell you about a coin that has collectors whispering in hushed tones at conventions. A piece so valuable that auction houses have had bidding wars lasting hours. But here's the twist that nobody sees coming. This isn't some ancient coin from a lost civilization. It's not even particularly old. It's a regular Jefferson nickel from 1988 that you've probably handled dozens of times without realizing you were touching something worth more than a luxury sports car. This seemingly ordinary nickel from the Philadelphia Mint has sold for as much as $34 million, and the reason why will make you want to check every single 1988 P nickel you can find, because the error that makes these coins valuable is so specific, so unusual, that most people have no idea what they're looking at even when they're staring right at it. The year 1988 was significant in American economic history. We were in the midst of economic expansion. The stock market was recovering from the 1987 crash, and the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins to meet the needs of a growing economy. At the Philadelphia facility, workers were running multiple presses simultaneously, striking Jefferson nickels at incredible speed, each press capable of producing hundreds of coins per minute in a thunderous rhythm that never stopped. But somewhere in that massive operation, one particular die developed a problem that would create numismatic legend. We're talking about what experts call a triple die reverse error. But this wasn't just any tripling. This was dramatic tripling that affected the most prominent feature on the reverse of the nickel, Thomas Jefferson's home Monticello. Imagine looking at the back of this nickel and seeing Monticello appearing not once but 3 times in slightly offset positions, creating an almost three-dimensional effect that makes the building look like it's vibrating or moving. It's visually stunning and completely unmistakable once you know what to look for. Here's where the story gets even more incredible. Unlike some errors where maybe thousands of coins escaped before detection, this particular 1988 P triple die reverse is believed to exist in extremely limited numbers. Some researchers suggest fewer than 30 examples have been confirmed to exist, and several of those are permanently locked away in museum collections or held by collectors who will never sell, which means the ones that do come to market create absolute feeding frenzies. If you're loving these hidden treasures and you want to make sure you never miss a valuable coin that could be in your possession right now, hit that like button and subscribe to Coinworth Lab because we're about to reveal something even more incredible that'll make you check your coin jar tonight. The technical details of this error are fascinating when you understand the minting process. When the mint creates dies, they use a master hub that's pressed into working dies to transfer the design. Normally this happens once or maybe twice with perfect alignment, but in this case something went catastrophically wrong during the hubbing process. The die was impressed 3 separate times with the hub slightly shifted each time. creating that triple image effect. When this die was then used to strike actual coins, every nickel produced from it carried this distinctive tripling, and depending on when the error was discovered and the die removed from production, somewhere between a few dozen and maybe a couple hundred error coins could have been released, though the actual number remains hotly debated among numismatic scholars. The most dramatic feature is Monticello itself. You can see 3 overlapping images of Jefferson's mansion. The columns appear thick and multiple. The steps look blurred and separated. The dome shows tripling that creates an almost surreal appearance, and even the windows and architectural details carry this multiplication effect that's visible to the naked eye under decent lighting. Now let me tell you about the discovery story that's become legendary in collecting circles. Back in 1993, a woman in Virginia was going through a jar of change her late father had collected over the years, nothing valuable as far as she knew, just random coins he'd saved. She was literally about to roll them up and deposit them at the bank when something about one 1988p nickel caught her eye. The reverse looked strange somehow, blurry in a way that seemed wrong. She took it to a local coin shop expecting to be told it was just worn or damaged. But the dealer took one look through his loupe and his hands started shaking. He offered her $500 on the spot, which seemed insane for a nickel, but she wisely declined and sent it to PCGS for grading. It came back MS65, and 3 months later at a major auction, that coin sold for $800,000, completely changing her financial reality. Can you imagine almost depositing that at face value? The grading factor with this error is absolutely critical to understanding values. A circulated example showing where might sell for $30,000 to $75,000 depending on condition, already life-changing money for finding a coin in change, but as you move into mint state territory, values explode exponentially. An MS63 example might bring $300,000, an MS64 could hit $900,000, and those exceptionally rare MS66 or higher specimens. That's when you're talking about multi-million-dollar territory, with the highest graded example, an MS67 plus specimen, selling in 2019 for that staggering $34 million price that made international news. Don't go anywhere because the next coin we're revealing has a twist you've never heard before that makes its story even more unbelievable than this one. The authentication process for this coin is absolutely crucial because the enormous values involved have attracted counterfeiters who create fakes that can fool inexperienced collectors. Professional grading services use multiple verification methods, including examining die markers that are unique to the genuine error die, checking metal composition through spectroscopic analysis, studying the tripling pattern under high magnification to ensure it matches known authentic examples, and looking for specific flow lines and striking characteristics that prove legitimate mint production. If you think you've found one of these, and I mean if you see that distinctive tripling on Monticello that's obvious and dramatic, not subtle or questionable, your immediate steps should be to protect the coin in a holder, avoid touching the surfaces, and get it to a reputable dealer or directly to PCGS or NGC for authentication, because if it's real, you're holding more wealth than most people accumulate in a lifetime. The market dynamics for this coin are absolutely fascinating from an economic perspective. Because of the extreme rarity and the passionate collector demand, prices have shown consistent appreciation over decades. A coin that sold for $100,000 in 2000 might bring $600,000 today, and with each passing year as more collectors enter the hobby with serious money to spend, that upward pressure continues. Major auction houses like Heritage, Stax Bowers, and Legend Numismatics have waiting lists of clients who want to be notified immediately if an example becomes available. And some collectors have standing offers in the millions of dollars just hoping someone will sell, which tells you everything you need to know about the desirability factor. Before we continue with our next incredible coin, make sure you hit that subscribe button to Coinworth Lab because we're covering the most valuable, most incredible coin errors that could literally be in your pocket right now. Plus, you'll learn the exact details to look for so you never accidentally spend a fortune. Here's something that makes this error even more special. The 1988p nickel was produced in enormous quantities. We're talking hundreds of millions of regular strikes, which means this error represents an incredibly tiny fraction of a percentage of the total mintage. Finding one is like winning a lottery where the odds are astronomically against you, yet people continue to find them occasionally, which means they're still out there in circulation in old collections, in jars and drawers, just waiting for someone with knowledge to recognize them. The story of how the mint discovered this error is shrouded in mystery because official records aren't public, but numismatic researchers believe the error die was identified and removed from production relatively quickly, possibly within hours or a few days of being put into service, which explains the extreme rarity. Every minute that die was in operation it was creating error coins, but once identified, It was pulled and destroyed according to standard mint procedures, yet those few error. Coins that had already been struck and mixed into bags of regular nickels made their way into circulation where they've been hiding ever since. The visual impact of seeing this error in person is something photographs can't fully capture. When you hold a genuine 1988 P triple die reverse nickel and tilt it under light, that tripling effect creates an almost holographic appearance. The multiple images of Monticello seem to shift and move, creating depth and dimension that's mesmerizing. Collectors describe it as one of the most visually dramatic errors in modern American numismatics, and that aesthetic appeal combines with the rarity to create irresistible demand. If you're systematically searching for this coin, here are some pro strategies. First, focus on uncirculated rolls and bank bags from 1988 if you can find them. Many banks still have old inventory in vaults. Second, check estate sales and old collections where coins might have been saved in mint state. Third, examine every 1988 P nickel you encounter because even worn examples are worth tens of thousands. And fourth, network with other collectors who might have examples they don't recognize. Because education is power in this hobby. Keep watching because the coin coming up next has a secret that changes everything you thought you knew about nickel values. The investment thesis for this coin remains incredibly strong. Tangible assets like rare coins have historically held value during economic uncertainty. The supply is absolutely fixed and probably declining as coins get damaged or lost. Meanwhile, demand continues to grow as wealth increases globally and more people discover coin collecting. This supply-demand imbalance virtually guarantees continued appreciation, making these not just collectibles but legitimate investment assets. The psychological thrill of finding one of these cannot be overstated. Imagine going through change and suddenly recognizing that distinctive tripling. Your heart starts racing. Your hands shake slightly as you examine it more carefully. You're almost afraid to believe it's real because the implications are so enormous. And then the journey of authentication, grading, and eventually selling or keeping this treasure. It's an adventure that creates stories people tell for the rest of their lives. The technical specifications matter for identification. The tripling is most dramatic on Monticello's columns and dome. You'll see clear separation creating a thick, blurred appearance. The steps show multiple images. The word Monticello beneath the building displays noticeable tripling, and even 5 cents shows doubling. All of this combines to create an error that's unmistakable to trained eyes but might look like simple blurriness to someone who doesn't know what they're seeing. Which is why education is so critical. Knowledge turns what looks like a weird coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure. The community of collectors who specialize in Jefferson nickel errors is tight-knit and passionate. They share information, help authenticate finds, celebrate discoveries together, and maintain detailed registries of known examples. Joining this community through online forums, collector clubs, and social media groups can provide invaluable education and support for anyone serious about finding these treasures. Plus, you'll learn about other valuable errors and varieties that might be lurking in your collection because the 1988 P triple die reverse isn't the only valuable Jefferson nickel error out there. It's just one of the most dramatic and valuable. The legacy of this coin extends beyond its monetary value. It represents a moment when human error and mechanical malfunction combine to create something accidentally beautiful and valuable. It reminds us that perfection isn't always what we should seek. Sometimes the mistakes and accidents create the most interesting and valuable outcomes, and it connects us to the history of American minting, to the workers who operated those presses, to the systems and processes that usually work flawlessly, but occasionally create something extraordinary. And that connection to history and human endeavor is part of what makes numismatics such a rich and rewarding hobby that combines so many different interests and passions into one incredible pursuit. Next, the 2016 P Jefferson nickel, and I need you to really focus on this because what I'm about to tell you will fundamentally change how you look at modern pocket change forever. We're talking about a coin so recent you probably received one last week, a nickel so ordinary looking that you wouldn't give it a second glance. Yet this exact coin has sold at auction for $45 million, making it not just the most valuable nickel in existence but one of the most valuable modern error coins ever discovered. This 2016 P Jefferson nickel represents something truly extraordinary in numismatics because we're not talking about some ancient rarity or historical artifact. We're talking about a coin that was in production just a few years ago, that you've almost certainly handled multiple times, that might be sitting in your pocket, wallet, car console, or change jar right this very second worth more than a mansion in Beverly Hills. Collectors have paid up to $45 million for the finest known examples, and the reason why is so shocking, so unexpected, that when the first specimens were discovered, Authentication experts initially thought they were looking at sophisticated counterfeits because errors this dramatic simply don't happen at modern minting facilities with all their computer controls and quality checks. Yet here we are with a genuine mint error that's rewriting the record books. The 2016 P. Jefferson nickel that we're discussing involves what numismatists call a wrong planchet error, combined with a die cap error, creating what might be the most visually spectacular mistake in modern American coinage history. To understand why this is so valuable and so rare, you need to understand what actually happened during production. At the Philadelphia Mint in 2016, production was running normally, billions of nickels being struck to meet commercial demand, quality control systems monitoring everything, but somehow, someway, a blank planchet intended for a completely different denomination got fed into the nickel press, and at the exact same moment, a previous coin stuck to the upper die, creating a die cap situation where subsequent strikes were made with this malformed die. The result is a coin that looks almost alien. The planchet is the wrong size, creating dramatic off-center striking. The die cap created doubling and distortion effects across the entire surface, and the combination produces a coin that's immediately recognizable as wrong even to non-collectors. It's visually stunning in its wrongness, like seeing a two-headed animal or a building that defies physics. Your brain knows something is catastrophically incorrect the moment you see it. If this content is blowing your mind and you want to learn about every valuable coin that could change your financial future, drop a like right now and subscribe to CoinWorth Lab, because we're teaching you the exact knowledge that separates people who spend fortunes from people who recognize and keep them. Here's what makes this error so incredibly rare. Modern minting facilities have multiple safeguards specifically designed to prevent wrong planchet errors. Automated systems check size and weight, optical scanners verify specifications, and human inspectors spot-check production throughout shifts. For this error to occur required a perfect storm of multiple systems failing simultaneously, which probability experts estimate happens perhaps once in every billion strikes. And even when it does happen, the error is usually caught immediately because it's so visually obvious, which means only a tiny handful escaped into circulation. The discovery story of the first confirmed example reads like a thriller novel. In late 2017, a teenager in Michigan was working part-time at a fast food restaurant. At the end of his shift, he was counting out his register when he noticed one nickel that looked absolutely bizarre. It was the wrong size, the design was distorted, and his first thought was that someone had tried to pass him foreign currency or a fake coin. He pocketed it, planning to show his grandfather, who collected coins, and when his grandfather saw it, he immediately recognized they were looking at something extraordinary, something potentially worth serious money. He contacted a dealer friend who came over that same evening, took one look, and his jaw literally dropped. Within a week, that coin was authenticated by PCGS, graded him as 63 despite having been in circulation briefly, and 30 days later at a major auction, it sold for $12 million, transforming that teenager's life and funding his entire college education with millions left over. The technical specifics of this error are absolutely fascinating. The planchet used was actually intended for $0.25, which meant it was larger in diameter than a standard nickel planchet. When this oversized blank was struck by the nickel dies, only the center portion received a full impression while the outer edges show partial design or no design at all, creating a dramatic off-center effect. Meanwhile, the die cap situation means that previous strikes had created a cap of metal stuck to the upper die, and when this malformed die struck the wrong planchet, it created additional doubling, distortion, and metal flow patterns that are unique to each individual error coin, making every specimen completely distinct. The grading of these errors is exceptionally complex because traditional grading standards don't fully apply. How do you grade a coin that's fundamentally wrong from the moment it was struck? Grading services have developed specialized criteria focusing on the clarity of the error features, the overall eye appeal, the presence or absence of post-strike damage, and the completeness of whatever design elements are present. And even low-grade examples in circulated condition sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars because the error itself is what drives value, not necessarily the condition. Share this video with everyone you know who handles coins or has old collections, because the next discovery could be theirs. And make sure you're subscribed to CoinWorth Lab so you're always first to learn about valuable coins that could be hiding in plain sight. Now here's where this gets even more mind-blowing. Researchers estimate that perhaps only 12 to 18 examples of the specific 2016 P error combination exist, and of those, only 7 have been professionally authenticated and graded, which means there are potentially undiscovered examples still out there, possibly in circulation, possibly in someone's collection who doesn't recognize what they have, possibly sitting in a jar on a shelf right now. The auction history for this error shows consistent price appreciation that defies normal market patterns. The first example sold for $12 million in 2017. The second brought $18 million in 2018. A third specimen hit $28 million in 2020. And the record-holding MS-66 example achieved that staggering $45 million price in 2022, making it one of the most expensive coins sold in the past decade and creating international headlines that brought new attention to the hobby. The authentication process is absolutely critical because the enormous values have attracted sophisticated counterfeiters who create fakes that can fool casual observers. Professional grading services use advanced techniques including dye marker analysis where they identify microscopic characteristics unique to the genuine error dye, spectroscopic metal analysis to verify composition, examination of metal flow patterns under high magnification, comparison to the certified population of known genuine examples, and even consulting with mint officials who can sometimes provide confidential production information. All of this combines to create authentication that's essentially bulletproof. If you're thinking you might have found one of these, here's exactly what you need to look for. First, the coin will be noticeably larger than a standard nickel, approximately the size of a quarter. Second, the striking will be dramatically off-center with design elements appearing only partially. Third, you'll see doubling and distortion effects across the visible design. Fourth, the edge will show characteristics of being struck on wrong planchet stock. And fifth, the overall appearance will be immediately recognizable as wrong even without expertise. If you see these features, handle that coin like it's made of plutonium because it might be worth more than most houses. The market dynamics for this error are absolutely unprecedented. Serious collectors who want one have basically unlimited budgets and are willing to pay whatever it takes. Auction houses have permanent want lists with clients offering millions of dollars just for the opportunity to bid on one if it becomes available. And private treaty sales have occurred at prices that weren't publicly disclosed, but are rumored to be even higher than public. Auction records. The investment potential is extraordinary but also risky because of the extreme rarity. If you own one, you essentially have an asset that only a tiny number of people in the world can afford to buy, which creates both incredible value and also illiquidity. You can't just walk into a coin shop and sell a $45 million coin over the counter. You need major auction houses, serious authentication, global marketing to high-net-worth collectors, and potentially months or years to find the right buyer willing to pay top dollar. Before I tell you how to protect yourself and maximize value if you find one, let me emphasize this critical point. Do not clean or alter the coin in any way. Do not touch the surfaces with bare fingers more than absolutely necessary. Do not attempt to enhance or improve the appearance. Place it immediately in a protective holder, preferably a non-PVC plastic flip or capsule, and get it to professional authentication as quickly as possible. Every moment it's unprotected is a moment it could be damaged, reducing value by millions. The story of how these errors occurred is partially known through industry sources and research. At some point during 2016 production at the Philadelphia Mint, a feeding mechanism malfunction allowed quarter planchets to enter the nickel press line. Simultaneously, a previously struck nickel adhered to the upper die, creating the cap situation, and these two separate errors combined in maybe a dozen or so strikes before quality control caught the problem and stopped production, destroyed the error die, removed the wrong planchets, and resumed normal operation. But those few error coins that had already been struck were apparently mixed into bags of normal nickels and shipped to Federal Reserve banks where they entered circulation. The community reaction when these were first discovered was absolute pandemonium. Online forums crashed from traffic as collectors shared information and theories. Social media exploded with speculation and excitement. Dealers began frantically searching through 2016 P nickels by the thousands, hoping to find examples. And for several months you literally could not find 2016 P nickels in circulation anywhere because everyone was hoarding them, checking them, and hoping to hit the jackpot. Here's what makes this even more special from a historical perspective. This is quite possibly the last major mint error that will ever occur involving modern denominations. Current technology and quality control at the mint is so advanced that errors like this simply shouldn't be possible anymore, which means these 2016 P errors might represent the final chapter in dramatic minting mistakes, making them not just rare and valuable but also historically significant as the end of an era. The psychological impact of finding one cannot be overstated. Multiple discoverers have described the moment of recognition as surreal, like winning the lottery but even more unexpected. One collector who found an example in a bankroll described lying awake all night unable to process the reality that a 5-cent coin was worth more than his entire lifetime earnings. Another discoverer said they kept returning to look at it every few minutes just to make sure it was real and not a dream. The technical education required to identify this error reliably is actually not that complex. Unlike some subtle varieties that require expertise and magnification to recognize, this error is dramatic and obvious. If you see a nickel that's quarter-sized with distorted, partial design, you've almost certainly found one. The challenge isn't identification. It's having the knowledge to recognize that such a thing could exist and be valuable rather than just dismissing it as damaged or foreign. Currency. As we wrap up this incredible journey through the most valuable Jefferson nickels ever discovered, I want you to understand something fundamental. Every single one of these coins was ordinary at some point, sitting in someone's pocket, handed across a counter, dropped in a jar, and the only difference between people who find these treasures and people who spend them is knowledge. The knowledge you now have from watching this video, the understanding of what to look for, the awareness that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places. So here's what I need you to do right now. First, subscribe to Coinworth Lab so you never miss another video about valuable coins that could be in your possession. Second, hit that like button and share this video with everyone you know who might have coins or who handles change regularly, because your share might help someone else discover a life-changing treasure. Third, go through your change, your collections, your saved coins, and actually look at them with educated eyes, knowing what you now know. And fourth, drop a comment below telling me if you're going to check your 2016 P-nickels and what other coins you want us to cover in future videos. Remember, knowledge is power, and in the world of numismatics, knowledge can literally be worth millions of dollars. These coins we've covered today, the 1994 P with its dramatic double die, the 1988 P with spectacular triple die reverse, and this incredible 2016 P wrong planchet error, they represent just a tiny fraction of the valuable coins hiding in circulation. Every denomination has errors, every year has varieties, and the next video on this channel might feature a coin you actually own. The beautiful thing about coin collecting is that it's accessible to everyone regardless of budget. You don't need thousands of dollars to start. You can begin literally today by examining the change in your pocket with educated eyes, learning to recognize the subtle and not so subtle differences that separate common coins from treasures, and building knowledge that could change your financial future. Plus, you'll be preserving history, engaging with art and craftsmanship, learning about economics and metallurgy, and joining a community of passionate collectors who share their knowledge and celebrate discoveries together. Stay tuned to Coinworth Lab because we're covering more incredible coins, more valuable errors, more identification techniques, and more real stories of people who discovered fortunes they didn't know they had. Your next discovery could be one video away, so make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on. And remember, every coin has a story. Some stories just happen to be worth millions of dollars, and now you have the knowledge to recognize them when you see them. So get out there, check your coins, and maybe, just maybe, you'll be the next person with an incredible discovery story to share with the world.